The next one is Berkeley, and they used iPads with the disability community, and I think Alan is going to, Alan is here to talk about that project.
So we have some pictures. And these are just gonna kind of rotate through. I don't have a lot of particular commentary on, why am I hitting the wrong thing here? There we go. On each picture, except for this one. This is it's gone. All right, when we get there. So Berkeley Public Library had a collaborating partner called the Center for Accessible Technology, or C4AT, and was awarded a Bayless grant to engage patrons with a variety of access problems and challenges to technology, computer technology. And the pilot program allowed the borrowing of iPads for use inside and outside the library, so they got to take them home in order to enhance accessibility to the library's entertainment and educational resources and beyond. The project was called The Use of iPads to Make Technology More Accessible. Let me describe what C4AT does. They ensure that people with disabilities benefit from computer-based assistive technology in order to achieve greater independence, gain access to employment, and significantly enhance the quality of their life. And if you go to edrobertscampus.org, which is where they're located physically now, you can read more about them. They're a participating and managing partner of that campus of disability organizations. There were two aspects to the grant. One of them was the trial program. That's where you're seeing these slides of participants that we recruited to use the iPads. And the other was training staff in order that they show or be able to show iPads to people at the desks. And I'm going to discuss both aspects briefly. The program participants were recruited from a variety of referrals, adult literacy, children's and teen services, but we were using this as an adult program, so that would have been parents and other people associated that way. The library basic computing class that we run every week, and C4AT clients also. We ended up with 8 people in the group, which wasn't a huge group, but it was a very diverse group, diverse in different ways, both in terms of their ethnicity, their skill and education resources, their language abilities, because we did have people from literacy, and of course their ability to use computer technology. Nobody was actually a person who'd never used technology. That turned out to be very difficult to find people who actually wanted to do it who'd never used it. That's something that we were interested in, but we weren't able to actually do that. So they'd used some kind of technology before. Many of the participants had actual disabilities, although they didn't necessarily see themselves that way in terms of identification, vision, physical disabilities, one person just learning English, and, as I said, limited reading skills. The training was done by an educational specialist from C4AT who had a lot of training working with kids and adults. She did 3 workshops for participants. The first one was basics on how the iPad is set up and how to use it. The second one went through word processing, downloading audiobooks and ebooks, downloading music and videos, using email, looking at library resources in particular, and some little bit on translator applications. And then the third one was very specifically about the internet, so how to use Safari, Facebook, and other social media, but specifically Facebook was the most popular, and Dragon dictation. We also showed Skype, but we didn't get very far with using Skype. We developed 2 assessment tools. One of them focused on basic feedback on the quality of the training and the instructor, and the other was to collect information on the comfort level and the use of the technology. We're still going through this qualitative results, so I don't have a full report on that. But one of the expectations that we had was that people would, of course, learn more and have more to say and be very excited about all the things we were teaching. That's not exactly what happened. We were teaching too many things in one workshop. What we should have been doing, which we would only know after we were done with the whole thing, was teach a couple of things and then have a lot of one-on-one work. We had some one-on-one work. So we had one-on-one work inside, but we needed it outside the session, more of that. So that would be a way of redoing that kind of thing. I wanted to mention the person with the visual impairment. Oh, this slide. That one you just saw was actually participants helping each other, so wanted to point that out. And let's see, this woman in the back here, all the way to the rear, the African American woman, had significant problems, almost blind. She did not like the iPad. Now, I had read all this stuff about, the blind computer community loving the iPad and the iPhone. This is the greatest thing in technology ever. So we wanted to see if we could have this work for her, and we worked with her to set up the thing that read out loud and all that, but she didn't like it. Recently, C4AT actually did some interviews of blind users. The reviews, again, this is not statistical, but a bunch of people split exactly in half. Half of them hated it and half of them loved it. So I'd say we don't know yet what this is about, or why exactly. She also had some physical issues, so that may have been part of it. The staff training component was 25 staff members from all the divisions of the library had a 90-minute training session on how to use it, what the purpose of using it at the desk was, and then how to get out there and do it. This part of the program was limitedly successful. We ran into things that we never would have predicted, like the thing's too heavy. So you're carrying it around and you're going, what am I doing with this thing? And you put it down. You don't want to put an iPad down when you're outside in the library, so that's a problem. If you go to Verizon, they have these slings that they carry them around, and then they pop them up and they work with you. The other one was, we're out there, we're working with somebody on the floor, and they say, oh, I'd like to put this on hold. So you go in and you're putting it on hold. All of a sudden, you're in a public area with people's private library information on the screen. Don't exactly want to do it that way. So we're waiting to see what Millennium comes up with Sierra, if we can do that. Maybe there's some way of something. But it was a little awkward to be out on the floor with people's public library, making library information public. 2 minutes, I'll be done. So the results. There was less use of library resources by these participants than we wanted. That's typical for these programs, but we pushed them, we showed them how to use them, how to download things. There was a big use of Facebook, perhaps some other social media, email, and downloading movies, photos, and gaming. So that was big. So that's good. So that's what people used it for, and that's how they got off on it. 2 participants were very ill during the program, and they actually couldn't come to some of the trainings. They were in the hospital. This was amazing. They loved the iPad. They were not isolated. They were out. They were able to use the email, use some downloading of materials, and were really out there. This was backed up by a recent study of quads in San Francisco who also were using these. There's a high suicide rate in new quads, and they were feeling less isolated. Again, not statistical, just a commentary on a kind of qualitative thing. Next steps. We'd like to use them in outreach services. That's one way to go. Literacy program more. It was very powerful for some of the literacy students. And work on this problem at the desk, which I mentioned. And again, I've told you how we would redo training if we did it again, where we do more classes, fewer things, and more one-on-one. And finally, a vision to leave you with. One of our children's librarians thinks that we could use this to actually walk around, make movies and pictures that would be live during like a workshop or some kind of a discussion or something. And I thought that was a really interesting way to look at it. So you'd actually have a wireless projector connection, make a movie, and show it on your screen while you're having your meeting. So thank you for the grant. What's that?
I said, you have 1 more minute.
Questions?
Thank you.
Sure.